Coco Esquire, I have a question for you.
Oh, hey, Camp. You've been looking good, by
Oh,
the way.
thank you. Thank you. A question for you. Did you see the video that I just posted about Kandi and her divorce from Todd?
I saw when you broke the news on the last
Oh,
video.
yeah, it's the same thing.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, quickly, if you can, not quickly, but what are your thoughts on him seeking primary physical custody, but joint
As he
legal
should.
custody?
Here we go now.
As he should. And
Okay.
I am typically not I, me saying that is just based on the reality of life.
Mm,
Can't when you think about the standard for child custody is best interest of the child.
mm,
And even Ray Charles can see that Kandi is always on the move. And so
mm,
the option is, and this probably happens, I don't know, because it ain't my life. Some people may take their kids on the road with them. Perhaps they're homeschooled. I don't know if that's the case with her children, but somebody's got to be at home
mm.
with these kids.
Yeah.
And Kandi is traveling, and that isn't shady. That's just the reality of the life. And if you're always going, always away, you're dragging the kids through airports. And is that the best thing for them? And I don't know the answer. That's for Kandi and Todd to decide,
Yeah.
but that's her life, right? And I
What a-
think he should ask for that.
what about him now questioning the prenuptial agreement?
Yeah,
Challenging.
I think that's standard. Kandi, we all need to have, as a community, a come to Jesus moment about how you hire counsel. Because when I
Mm,
saw that video of her lawyer storming into that room with some video recorder trying to record him signing it and saying, yes, you talked to an attorney, and yes, you were, and having him kind of go through this rendition and make these proclamations, I thought this is not going to age well. And I don't know if it was staged or what, but that means nothing. The reality is, if it's true that he signed it only moments before the wedding, that is suspect. That's just suspect. It is what it is. You know, even if he'd been presented the agreement prior, he did not sign it. And so he could argue that there's a reason he didn't sign it. He didn't think it was advantageous. As I recall, he even said, my lawyer advised me not to sign it.
now you got me. I'm gonna have to go back because I can't remember. I mean, it was so long ago now, like 14 years. Well, not 14, like 11 years. I'm like, okay.
I'm I'm pretty sure that was like a comment that he made. My lawyer advised me not to sign it, and so I don't know why his lawyer advised him not to sign it. But if for some reason he was unfairly disadvantaged in the agreement and he signed it under the pressures of an impending wedding within a few hours, you don't have to hold a gun to somebody's head for it to be duress.
Mm,
It's just, you want to have a cool head when you sign that type of an agreement, because people say they marry for love, but marriage is a business arrangement. Let's be clear.
yeah.
That's what it is. And so they have a long-term marriage, which is what is noted under the law. They've been married for over 10 years. Lots of things have changed in 10 years from when they first sat down to get married. They done had kids. They've got all these businesses. His lifestyle and even Candy's lifestyle has changed significantly,
Yeah.
perhaps in a way that neither of them could have even envisioned. So maybe a relook as to whether or not the prenuptial agreement is the best mode to determine
Mm,
how they're going to, dissolve this union. I think he's got a good lawyer.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I do note, though, is that his tone, although he was challenging these things, his tone, in my opinion, still seemed very amicable.
Yeah.
As I note, someone observed that she's a great mother. So it doesn't sound like he's like, yo, you need to pay my way. Sounds like he's just like, yeah, I want physical custody because I'm going to be the one that got the kids all the time anyway. You going to be gone.
You
Totally
Broadway. She's gonna be
reasonable.
on Broadway for the next few months until March.
Yeah. And so now what Candy has to do is say, yes, this is how my schedule and a joint physical custody arrangement is going to be most beneficial for the kids. Now,
Mm,
she's going to have to go on her bag and demonstrate that it's in the best interest that they have shared physical custody.
mm,
And one of the questions that I know came up was about the child support. And, you know, you can have, you know, they can have shared physical custody. And if the kids are with one party more, like they typically do a split in terms of the time. And if the kids are with both parents 50-50, and they're enjoying a similar lifestyle, then
mm,
custody at both houses, then child support may not be an issue. But if
mhm.
one parent lives in a one bedroom condo and the kids have, a sprawling estate at the other parent's house, the goal is to have the children have a similar lifestyle wherever they're at.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So,
So if he's not living that same lifestyle once he moves out of that house, if he moves out of that house, he could ask for more.
well, he may be awarded child support in
Mm,
the event that they were to even get a 50-50 split. He
mm,
could still end up getting child support
mm,
if it was necessary to ensure the kids didn't experience any type of deprivation of their lifestyle. Now, that's not to say that he has to also be living in a mansion,
yeah.
but certainly there's a disparity between your dad staying in a one bedroom apartment and you having to sleep on the couch
Mm,
versus at your mama house where there's 10 bedrooms and y'all
mm,
got an acre to go outside and play. Like, so those are two different, the spectrum is massive,
yeah.
but I think it's totally reasonable. I think he had a respectful statement, as I recall. And I think that he has to do that in order to get any respect for the investments that he really did make into this marriage, even
Mm,
if it was just holding her purse. Like, he made some investments. So good for him.
mm. Well, I just randomly thought of that. Miss Esquire, if you're listening, feel free to call in back just because I want to hear both perspectives.
So, anyway, Camp.
Thank you, Coco. We appreciate you.
All right, y'all have a good one.
You too. Bye. All right. I'm going to bring Miss Esquire back up. I want to, first of all, say thank you. But Miss Esquire was in the chat and she said this, and I'm going to bring Miss Esquire up in just a second. She says, the fact that Todd ignored his counsel's advice not to sign a prenup will come back to haunt him. Then she said, I wonder if Todd is going to be able to show he's taken more of the primary parenting responsibilities during the kids' lives. And she says he absolutely could ask for more, even if 50-50, but much more if he's granted primary custody. So that was my thought, Ms. Esquire, in regards to when I reported on the breaking news earlier. I was just like, I wonder if he's seeking primary custody for not just because he literally is the primary physical person around and because Kandi travels a lot, but I was like, is there another ploy to that? What's your perspective on this breaking news about Todd seeking primary physical custody and also questioning the prenuptial agreement?
Well, first of all, always going to shout out Miss Coco Esquire. I love my girl down. She is so great. I learn a lot when I listen to her, so I love listening to her. And I don't think we're going to diverge too much. But what I will say is, I think I agree with her to a certain extent that he could have gone for the jugular and gone for sole physical custody, not joint legal custody. I think that's a very reasonable and respectful place to start
Mm,
when talking about custody. Is like, hey, I think I should be the primary parent, but I think we should make all the legal decisions together about like where they go to school or any health issues that they have. So that is where he's sort of starting. And again, my concern would be, given that Kandi is so busy and she has so many businesses, like, is he going to be able to show, no, like, I'm actually the person who takes them to their activities and
mm,
takes them on play dates and knows their teachers and goes to the parent conferences and communicates with the doctors and makes the dental appointments, because they did have a non-traditional marriage, it seemed to me, where the gender roles were not so rigid.
yeah.
And so it may come to pass that he's able to show that. And so then the question really is, which parent, if they have a healthy co-parenting relationship and the kids have a healthy relationship with both of them, which parent is in the best position to do the primary parenting?
Mm,
Now, to Coco Esquire's point, I think the problem is his lifestyle that he can maintain on his own is not going to allow him to do that. And if they've equally co-parented the kids, then to me, the courts, in the best interest of the children, to have them not have as much disruption in their life, for their schedules not to change, for their environments not to change as much as possible, would lean towards keeping them where they are and
Mm,
allowing very, very heavy visitation with their dad, maybe 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off kind of thing.
mm,
1 week on, 1 week off, people think of 50-50 visitation as like, oh, that has to be the optimal situation. It really isn't. Not for the kids, it's not. Because you have to think they're in different living situation week by week. They have different routines, different environments, different schedules. That's really, really hard. It actually is preferable in a lot of places, in the best interest of the child, to give them one primary place where they live and very heavy visitation and involvement with the other parent.
mm,
So I just wanted to also say that, like, I think a lot of people perceive 50-50 visitation or custody as like the optimal situation. It really isn't for the kids. It
mm,
might be for the adults involved, but that's not what the courts consider. They consider what is in the best interest of the children. You have two very young children who have known their parents to be married in the same household since the beginning of their lives. They're already going to go through a lot of changes, having to adjust to the fact that their parents are not together. Then you taking them in and out of their home, it's very disruptive. It's very unhealthy for them. You can see behavioral issues, academic issues result from all of that. And these are very formative years. So it will be interesting to see how he's able to support him being the primary parent. That is what I worry about for Candy. Has he been the primary parent during the marriage? Because if
mm.
so, then they're more used to his routine, his structure, his flow, and you're like the parent who kind of comes in and out. And what does it look like for that now to swap? How much support would you need? Would that be putting a lot of people in their lives? If you remember when Martell and Melody were going through this, one of the legitimate things I think Martell was able to say, although there wasn't much, was, hey, you do a lot of traveling, you have a lot of nannies.
Mm,
When you're out of town, I would like sort of a right of first refusal when it comes to
mhm.
my kids. Why should they be with some caregiver that you've hired, or family member, as opposed to me being able to have that quality time with them? That's another argument that sort of kind of will play into whether primary custody is given to one parent or another.
Do you,
The courts do. Yeah, I'm
do
sorry.
you think that it was a smart decision in her taking on this Broadway role?
Um, I think it's a very interesting decision because I would imagine that the children are domiciled in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine that they're educated in Georgia unless they're homeschooled. And so if they Broadway is 8 shows a week. The only day
It's a
you get
lot.
off is Monday. And so I don't know how she's going to be able to do 8 shows a week and primarily parent the children from New York if they're domiciled in Georgia. This is a Georgia filing,
Yeah.
which suggests to me they are a Georgia family. This is a Georgia marriage. That's where all of their estate and marital property is. And you're in New York for work right now. Doesn't it doesn't sound like a great fact in
That,
her favor.
could they grant temporary primary custody while she's doing this?
They could, but the question I think that Todd's attorney is going to raise, okay, Your Honor, if you give her primary custody, how is that going to be administered? How is she going to primarily parent those children? Is that going to happen through caretakers like their grandmother,
Mm,
like uncles, or like nannies? If so, then you're depriving my client, who is in Atlanta, who is in Georgia, who's familiar with the children's schedule, from
mm,
having that quality parenting time with them. Why should that be the case? How is that in the children's best interest? How does that ensure that they keep a strong relationship with their father and there's no alienation from their father while the couple goes through this transition?
yeah.
I mean, if I'm his counsel, those are my kind of arguments for why, she shouldn't be. If there's going to be a temporary situation, let it be a temporary situation that keeps the kids in as stable and as consistent a situation as they're used to as possible. And right now, he may be able to show that's with him,
Mm,
particularly if he can obtain housing really quickly that's in the school district or near where the kids' activities are, and it's not very disruptive. If he's willing to allow visitation with their grandmother, with their other siblings, he's willing to facilitate all of that and agree to that. He's willing to bring them to New York to see their mom on weekends. Like, there's arguments he could make in that
mm,
situation, but it just kind of depends on what the court thinks is in the kid's best interest.
mm. Thoughts on the prenuptial agreement? For those that just joined us, I'm just asking our legal eagles in the building their thoughts on the recent breaking news that Todd Tucker, Kandi Burruss's soon-to-be ex-husband is seeking primary physical custody, joint legal custody, but he's also questioning the prenuptial agreement, stating that he basically signed it under duress. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think it's a legal strategy and tactic
Oh, okay.
to sort of bring in as much as you kind of throw in everything but the kitchen sink kind of
Mm,
approach.
mm-hmm,
And because I don't see it. I don't see even the facts. I don't see any facts being alleged in the response
mm,
that even to me present duress. Like he had the benefit of counsel during this time. We all saw that clip where he said, I'm signing this against my counsel's advice, which means he had the benefit of counsel. He was aware of what he was doing and he deemed it in his best interest. He is on
mm,
camera during that videotaped signing with her counsel, answering all of those affirmative acknowledgement and informational questions that usually make a prenup airtight. I don't know what the legitimate argument is that they have, but it looks like to me a legal strategy similar to what Miss Coco Esquire said, which was a great point when we were talking about the Wendy case.
mm,
Remember when I was like, I don't know why they would separate this into two cases. That's expensive for them. Why would they want to put themselves through that, their family that? And she was like, girl, this is legal strategy to wear the courts down, to make these
mm.
prosecutors work for this conviction, to lead them into wanting to, settle this or dismiss charges. And he's like, okay, you know, right? I forgot that sometimes we just make things weird and awkward as attorneys through legal strategy
Yeah.
to make things expensive, to make things go on longer, and to entice someone to settle with you on favorable terms.
Mm,
The prenup feels like it's in that area because the facts just don't seem to suggest that there's legitimacy to a duress claim.
mm.
But maybe more facts will come out that, make his claim seem more legitimate. I just don't see him right now, but I can see the legal strategy and at least you can't win arguments that you don't make, essentially. And so sometimes you have to make arguments if there's a colorable claim for you to make them and there are facts that could, suggest that the claim is legitimate.
So would you say this is less messy than just a legal strategy?
I mean, I'm sure I think it's like what it feels like as a lawyer to watch people make certain claims. It's like, okay, I can understand your strategy around that. I can't imagine what that feels like for Candy because the
Mm,
whole point of that entire ordeal of going through the prenup and all of the arguments that they had is that you're buying your peace for when things do go,
mm,
a different way. This was supposed to be our insurance policy that we agreed to at the front end when we loved each other, when we were on the same page for what might happen if the time came where we had to part ways. I was buying my peace then that I'm supposed to have now on that issue. And I'm sure for her, it feels like a betrayal
mm.
on top
Yeah.
of whatever other betrayal she feels.
Well, if y'all saw my breaking story with this, I told you the tea that I heard in regards to the divorce. Before you go, Miss Esquire, Coco Esquire sent a super chat. Thank you so much, Coco Esquire. She says, the feeling is mutual. Love to hear and learn from you, Miss Esquire. Todd challenging the prenup forces a conversation. Kandi is a former single mom, is not gonna want to lose physical
Let me
custody.
tell you something. As a single mom of two, baby, I can't like being with if you're with your babies all the time.
Mm,
Like that's why I feel so bad when people do get divorced. Like as hard as it is as a single mom, I don't have to send my babies anywhere week after week.
yeah.
And as much as I try to tell my friends who have gone through it, like, hey, take that time to invest in you, do the things you want to do. Like, girl, you get a week off from your kids. You don't have children. Like Melody said this one time during Love and Marriage Huntsville, she's like, I didn't have children to not see them every single
Mm,
day. And when she said, I remember that from years ago, and she said that it broke my heart because
yeah.
who has babies and for half of the like month you don't know if they are having good dreams, nightmares, if they feel bad, if they need a hug, they had a
Mm,
good, you can find out through calls, but that would torture me.
yeah.
Honestly, I
Mm,
can't imagine.
mm,
But it is their dad. Like they seem to both love those babies. If there's any heart to be had in this, it's like, well, as long as Candy knows they're good with Todd,
yeah.
as long as he's been a very active dad and a very active parent, maybe that will be a saving grace here. But I still can't imagine any mother like not wanting to tuck their babies in every single night.
Yeah. Mm. Mm, mm,
That's
mm.
hard.
Miss Esquire, Coco Esquire, thank you both.
Bye.
Take care.
Here we go now.